the JSA stuff was well received, but there was a query from housing professionals about one-bed properties, and that they, although there was a big call for them, they were extremely difficult to manage, and created, and I wouldn't use the term ghettos, but created places where similar people, because of the needs, got put into one-bed properties, and they felt this was not good from the point of view of creating mixed communities, that happened. And also some of them were then inappropriate to get different kinds of people who might need a small property. So weren't quite so sold on one-bed properties, and that comes up in one of the priorities. There was a great deal of concern about fuel poverty, and also the need to have integrated approach to where houses are placed, and that they should include transport, the cost of transport. People on low incomes, if they're put in places where they can't get to work or they can't get to schools unless they drive quite a long way, this didn't seem to make much sense and be compatible with the need for affordable housing. So a close look at that. And the whole business of helping people that suffered with fuel poverty, particularly in rural areas where there is no gas, and that you have to have expensive forms of heating, things like night store heaters, which aren't particularly good. Felt that tenants must be involved, should be involved in the design of housing, and there were some slightly unkind remarks about architects, and they must have all been designed by men. You need to find out whether you can get a settee in the sitting room, and whether there's room to, park the pushchair, let alone swing the cat. So there was a thing about getting involved at design stage to make the houses, fit to live in. We don't live in show houses, was one of the things that said. The second group raised different issues than the first one, and one of those that they said was private landlords need to be encouraged to accept single tenants who are on benefits. There is a stigma. And then somebody made the comment, well, the changes in the benefit system have made that more difficult because the money is paid to the tenant, and that it doesn't always work well. So people don't do it because of the bureaucracy in getting their money, the private landlords, and there would be more private landlords if the money was paid directly to them. Bonds were generally welcomed very much, the issuing of bonds so that people had the money for a deposit and had the money for the forward rent that they had to pay. Generally speaking, it was felt that more affordable housing was needed, and we were only beginning to see the start, that this may get considerably worse in the next 12 months as more and more people become homeless or because they can't pay mortgages. And it is very difficult to actually be taken as homeless and with a duty to rehouse, because there are all sorts of clauses which say that. So all of those things were into account. Help for elderly people. Don't put their name on a bungalow list because there are no bungalows in their village. They don't want to move out. And that those should have decent space standards. I suppose going back to the old Parker Morris, those of you who are in housing for any late to die, were there. So the priorities, the three priorities that we have, or kind of 3.5, was a better use of the existing stock and reviewing the needs of those on the list so the existing stock can be managed for a better fit. Fuel poverty was a real priority that came up time and time again. Redevelop housing that is old and can't have fuel efficiency measures, knock them down, rebuild them. They felt it would be cheaper in the long run. And to put people towards bulk buy oil schemes in rural areas. Better planning involving the residents on the interiors, and mixed private and social housing for mixed communities, and good access and parking for both rural and urban areas. Planning requires other themes such as the economy, transport to be involved, so more joined up thinking between the different subjects of these tables tonight in planning where housing should be and how it should be, and the payment of benefits to lobby government. This is going to get worse as benefits are reduced, homelessness will increase, and to lobby government to go back to being able to pay the money straight to the landlord. And I think those were the priorities.
One of the points that came over very strongly in our discussion was the lovely environment that we do have around Chippenham. You know, the open spaces, the canal paths, the rivers, the parks, and also the cycle paths, which are you know, increasingly being opened up. And that it's very important that we felt to actually promote these and to get people out into the fresh air, which would you know, promote health. It would help with child obesity and just, you know, encouraging people to actually enjoy the beautiful area that we have got here. However, there were one or two points that people were quite concerned about. One of which was the amount of litter that is left around, not just actually in Chippenham itself, but alongside roads, particularly in lay-bys. And also the amount of, in certain areas of the town, the amount of dog excrement that's still lying around. You know, a lot of people are actually responding to taking a bag with them and, you know, dealing with their dogs' leavings, shall I say, but a lot of people aren't, and particularly people taking their children to school were alarmed by the amount of dog poo that's still around. So, you know, we wondered whether there needs to be more awareness raising on these issues so that people getting out and about would actually deal with these things instead of dropping litter, taking it home with them, dealing with their dogs' leavings and so on. Someone mentioned that there's the Keep Britain Tidy Love Where You Live campaign, and we thought that was a rather nice logo for it, so if we could promote that. One of the other points that came over very strongly was that there don't seem to be enough allotments in the area to serve the number of people who want to grow their own vegetables now. It's you know, it's very, very much the thing at the moment to grow your own. And apparently the waiting list is 126. So we wondered if there were maybe people who can't control their own gardens because they're too big for them, whether we could encourage a garden share organisation which could perhaps begin from chaps and be run by volunteers. So that was something that we felt might be a really useful thing to do. And one of our groups said that she would love to grow her own vegetables but didn't have a clue where to start. And someone else on the table said, well, you know, I'm actually trained in gardening, I love it, I would love to teach people how to garden. So again, this could all be part of it. Our third priority we thought might come for something to mention to the council, which was the encouraging planting to promote pollinators in this area, so that communal spaces, when they're being planted out, perhaps some thought could be given to the type of plants that are put there to encourage pollinators to come to this area, and you know, because we do want to make sure that we've got bees and other pollinating insects, and that we're encouraging them to breed rather than to die. Those were our priorities.